What I think is nice about where they're pushing him is that it's the first time Steve doesn't really know the answer. I mean, the first Captain America, it's pretty clear Nazis are bad. We can all agree with that. Captain America 2, it's Shield is being run by Hydra. No conflict there. The Avengers movies, aliens are no good. We want to fight them. It's always pretty cut and dry for him to know which side of the coin to fall on, and this is why this is tricky. This conflict is a little more akin to day-to-day struggle that we all go through, where there's no right and there's no wrong. There's a point of view, and I think it's hard for him to understand what the right thing to do is and what his role is. That's what makes it such a good conflict. It's not enemy versus hero. Or villain versus hero. It's friends. It's family. This is sometimes the most dramatic conflict, when it's people that actually have a history and care about each other, consider each other brothers. It's that much more difficult to navigate. Basically, it's about certain governments around the world are expecting the Avengers to take responsibility for their past actions. We've saved the world a few times, but we've left a lot of damage in our wake. And I think certain branches of the government aren't necessarily comfortable with us operating as this independent unit anymore. He's a good man. Anytime you get to go to set and try and live in a headspace for a certain amount of time and process scenes through the eyes of someone who sees life a certain way, you can't help but take some of that home with you. And, why not take home a little bit of Steve? It's a grounded story. That's the best. Russos, they make human stories with a superhero feel, as opposed to a superhero movie with human touches. They're just it's real storytelling about a genuine family conflict. That's what makes it so great.
What I like is there's all these concentric circles of events that are occurring, and it finally answers the question that I think any rational human being, it begs the question, why doesn't anybody bug out on these Avengers when they lay waste to these places while they're saving the world? And I thought, well, cool, it's about time. But then it creates all this new problem set that needs to be addressed. I read the Extremis series, and I was thinking about that from Iron Man 1 through Iron Man 3. The Avengers stuff was always really kind of this colossal, ambitious thing. But to me, the Civil War was it was the smart, sexy Marvel idea, about really having a rift between two characters that you don't want to see them. You want to see them, some friction, but you don't want to see this tear in the fabric of the relationships, because you know how pervasive it could be. There's nothing I don't like about them as directors. There's just kind of a simpatico with the way that I like to influence things and then step back and really follow their lead. It's just this kind of dance, this creative dance you want to have. And the other thing is, it's not like, Anthony's in charge of talent and Joe takes care of all the technical stuff. I mean, they're like, they're both, there's a lot of alacrity, and they're both really versatile individually. I think people are really going to be pleasantly surprised and intrigued by the journey of the choices that Cap makes, and the fact that you kind of stay with him. It's familiar and easy to kind of go on the Tony serendipitous hero side. We're always going to mess a bunch of things up, but his heart's in the right place, and you kind of wonder, like, where is Cap's heart right now?
Now that we find her again, and after all we know from, what's happened in Avengers 2, she has a greater calling. And I think that's what makes this character really heroic, is that she's kind of dug her heels in and said, look, I could kind of go down this road, which would be the more desirable road personally, and kind of disappear and live off the map and everybody kind of have what everybody wants. But she chooses this kind of greater calling, and in this film, we really see her kind of move closer to a kind of leadership position. I think that Natasha sees Black Panther as someone with a lot of potential. I think she sees him as someone who's smart, emotionally grounded, and unexpected, and highly skilled. And she's interested in him. She's interested in recruiting him. I think she sees him as someone with a lot of potential. I cannot imagine anybody but Chris playing this role. It's a very difficult role to play because on one hand, you have this character has this very strong moral compass and is very righteous, and that can be, you try to think, where's the conflict in that? Conflict is what makes characters interesting. But I think that Chris has added this. I don't know, he's almost grounded this character in something very human.
I was really excited when I read the script, definitely. I didn't really know where they were going to take it because the playing field was so open, they could have done anything with the character. But I was really happy as an actor because I felt like I got a chance to play a lot of different colors. Well, the thing that people forget is that both of these guys are dealing with serious traumatic issues, post-traumatic issues, and guilt issues. Steve is haunted by the fact that he never went after Bucky when Bucky fell off the train. And he suffers from survivor's guilt, and in a way it's a little bit of that, similar to a person whose family member goes missing and they never really settle, they don't really kind of settle into what really happened. And I think it's similar like that for Steve, and also that he feels responsible for it. And of course, for Bucky Barnes, he's on another level because he's learning about what a killing machine he's been and how much damage he's done across the years. I mean, I love Chris. He's awesome. I mean, he's an incredibly generous actor. And he's game to try something. He's game. He'll go there with you. Like he'll want to find a cool moment in the scene. He's open to ideas. I mean, it's good in these movies you want to feel like, in my opinion, that you're on a team, that you're working together towards making a cool project, so to speak, and you definitely feel that with Chris.
It's a character that I looked at and said, let me find as much material as I could possibly find. And when you go through like their various writers, and you see just the possibilities that are there along with what they provided, just that he's a king, he's a monarch, and at the same time he's the superhero, but he's not quite a superhero. That he has this quality of being very strategic. You never know quite what he's going to do next, so he's always a step ahead of everyone. So there's a certain mystery about the character. The thing about this movie is that he has his own agenda, his own world that he has to protect. He has his own lineage that he has to live up to. So he can't just take orders from Iron Man. He can't just take orders from Cap. He can see the value in both sides, but he's not going to tell them that what his belief is or what his interest is. So he's a character that you have to figure out constantly. I think the thing this movie does is it pulls from history and adds to the story. It pulls from current situations to add to the story. So it makes it topical. It's not just superheroes fighting. You feel connected, like somehow this could actually happen. I think for me, first off, I wanted to be true to the comic book character, because as true as possible, because it's a character that people have been waiting on. But that said, there are some things that are unspoken that I try to bring to the table that are pulling from, whether it be tribal history or tribalism or, African civilization. They're things that I'm always doing that are not even on the page. What I really love about it is that it pulls from so many different types of warriors and eras. Like you certainly see the hint of an African aspect in some of the decorations here, and it's almost like they're weapons here as well, around the necklace. In other portions too, you certainly see like a medieval armor, and you see the samurai like armor as well, and you see aspects of the ninja as well. So I love that you can look at it in one moment and see one thing, and look at it another moment and see another thing.
But really, it's kind of like a direct link from Age of Ultron into Captain America. It's the last we left him, he went back to see the family, pretty much where he was the entire time until the kids started fighting. So he kind of comes out of retirement, if you will, and is asked to come help out Steve. So he does. They're smart and they're passionate and they're just a delight to work with, and it really does help, I think, for me to be able to spend time with them before we start jumping into Avengers 3 and 4 together. They'll get how I work and what I'm able to do and what I like to do and how I like to work. 'Cause I'm very physical. I like to do all my own stunts. They'll see like my sense of humor in the riffing with on and off camera stuff, and just to create a relationship with them has been really great.
I think for her, the Avengers replaced just like any form of home and family, because she doesn't have any of that when we leave her in Avengers. She doesn't have Sokovia really, and also like she knows that she can be put to good use in helping people, and I think part of her losing her brother makes her want to continue to help people and save people, because if she were with him, maybe that wouldn't have happened to him. So I do think there's part of that in there. And I think it's nice to be part of a community of people that are similar to you. I think everyone tries to find that, and I think she does find that within them. They're in charge, the Russos. They know like anything that I would ever question, or even if I'm not questioning something, all of their ideas are so specific. They come in really quickly, really directly, with new ideas, with new adjustments, and just being able to be so specific and direct and quick is really helpful. I remember reading it and being really excited by my character's just arc in general. I like the idea of her being terrified of her own abilities and being unsure, just as unsure as everyone else is, but everyone's kind of acting like everything's cool with her. But to be unsure of your own power that is within you, I think is a really, it's not something like I personally relate to. But it is something that I find interesting and fun to play.
I love he's sort of on his own quest, which is to understand human beings, and I think that right now he realizes that loyalty has got to come through love, real loyalty, and so because otherwise, if his opinion changes, if new facts come to light, his allegiance could change because he's existing with logic and only with logic. So I think that he's very intrigued by what love is and what affection is trying to figure that out. I think Tony's sort of, like any father, realizing that he has to let his son go, and it must be the relationship must be it must be a very a large adjustment for him, because he's a servant no longer. He's created this omnipotent, all-powerful superhero, and it's hard to father that sort of, hard to wrangle that sort of person. I think the fans are going to really appreciate the fact that this is a sort of, I feel like it's a sort of centerpiece for where the universe and where the films are going to springboard from here on out. And there's a darker, more self-reflective quality to the film and the filmmaking, and I'm really I feel that that's going to be it's going to be at one at the same time satisfying and also get everybody salivating for what is to come, which is going to be monumental.
Yeah, it's been a real trippy experience so far, and amazing. We shot Ant-Man, and people would ask me, what does it feel like to be part of the Marvel Universe? And I thought, it's amazing, it's great, it's really fun. But we were also kind of working in a bubble. And when I showed up here for the first time and was doing a scene with Captain America and, Falcon and all that, it's like, whoa, this is, I turned into a bit of a 10-year-old. It was pretty strange and really cool. And kind of the first time I thought, man, I really am part of it, and it's exciting. The new suit is really streamlined and looks a little more high-tech. I loved the original Ant-Man suit because it had a real vintage look to it, and now it looks like it's been tricked out and kind of fits in with modern times a little bit more. And it was exciting. I had that same feeling as when I tried it on the very first time in Ant-Man, which is just, I'm looking in the mirror going, this thing looks awesome. So it's great. The Russos have a real even keel kind of about them, which is crucial and so nice. They can be so many moving parts to shooting this movie. I mean, there's a lot of action, there are a lot of characters, and a lot going on, and it's enormous. And so, the mood of any set is dictated by the director or directors, and this one has been really chill and fun because they make it that way, and they also are really enthusiastic about what it is that they're making, and that's infectious. That's really kind of fun to be around. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things I like about this character. I mean, I like all of the, his flaws and all of that, and I like that he can I don't know, still kind of crack a joke even in really extreme and serious situations, and hopefully not seem like a clown, you know, alleviate some of the tension, but still be engaged. And he's still tough, he's still strong, he still is operating, you know, according to his own kind of moral compass, but he's kind of doing it at his own speed.
Well, in this movie, you see Falcon in more of a authoritative role. It's not so much him following Steve or Steve giving demands. He's more of an ally, more of a companion to Steve. He has more input on the missions and what's going on. And, you know, my main goal over the past 3 movies has been to find Bucky. So now that I've found him, is just trying to nurture a relationship between the metal arm guy. How wildly intelligent he is and well-versed he is about the script. You know, Chris comes to set and he knows exactly what the scene should be and how he wants it to play. And it's helpful now that he's directing in his own career for him to leak that a little bit into his Captain America role, because it really puts him in a position where, you know, you can go to him with questions, you can go to him with ideas, you can really just sit back and watch him work as an actor and watch him develop a character. I got Tony Starkerized. Yeah, he high-teched up my suit, and I got Red Wing, which is dope, which is something I've been asking for 2 movies now. So it's great. I love my new suit. I got my little splash of red, you know, and if you look at the jetpack, the way it's formed in the movies, you know, it's really, Marvel has made a concerted effort to help Sam Wilson evolve into an Avenger. So that's cool. I like how far he's coming, where they plan on him going. To see Black Panther come to life is really kind of like a dream come true. And Chad gives him a great energy. He gives him a great confidence, a great stoicness that I feel that character needs. And working with him has been everything it should be. I mean, you know, I've known Chad for a long time, and I feel like he's really developed into a cerebral actor. I feel like the large things he does, you know, anybody would do, but those small things is what makes him, those delicate things is what makes him a unique actor. And, you know, watching the dailies and seeing the things he's doing on camera with Black Panther is really, it's really great to see. Their, you know, knowledge of film, their knowledge of just, you know, their intelligence of performance and film and history, it only adds to the cluster of things that they bring to the set every day, because they know these comic books and these scripts inside and out. And you have to realize, you know, when you first start a movie, you make a change on the first day, you have to track that change all the way through shooting that movie. And they're brilliant with that. I mean, they're brilliant in developing these characters.
Well, you know, as a new member of the Avengers, I think, again, we find Rhodey trying to figure out how to still be on the side of, you know, his friends and these superhumans and these people who are self-appointed to be the protectors of just not the world, but the universe. And also still maintain his military standing and really be 100 about that and try to abide, if he can, by the letter of that law. So I think he's kind of torn, where Rhodey often is in this position where he's, you know, trying to follow chain of command and do what his sworn, you know, appointed duty has dictated, and also do something a bit outside of the lines with the Avengers. I think what's fun about coming back is the fact that there are more places to go, and we still, you know, especially for my character with what he goes through in this movie, there's more to explore every time I've come back. I think if we were just doing the same thing over and over again, I think it would get kind of boring. It would be, you know, kind of by rote. But like I said, the characters are changing and we're expanding, and the fact that we're in conflict with each other is a very interesting twist that we haven't had before. And I think that the Russo brothers are very smart about understanding that the way to ensure that there's lifeblood in this series and that we have more places to go, is that they've got to really get gritty. Clearly, the fact that we are in conflict is a nice twist on the genre. And also, I think the places that these characters go and what they learn and how they develop from this conflict, you know, are they going to come out of it? What relationships come through that and are intact?
He's a very rich human being. He's seen a lot, and he's learned a lot. And he carries a lot of joy into the room. But it's not superficial joy. He's cordial. He's brave. Completely original. He carries himself with a lot of humane pizzazz. There's still a piece of Ross which is just as duty bound as he was before. He's loyal to his job. He's loyal to his country. This is his job, and and to a certain extent he can leave the outcome to the event. When I was reading this version, I loved the fact that the comics came back from all those years ago, and there were things I hadn't thought of in years and years and years, and there are elements in many of them that are in here. And I was asking myself, okay, what's this character? Oh, right. And who's this character? Oh, right. And that happened. That's right. Okay. Because as an actor, you're looking for your given circumstances, your history of character. Because then you're coming from something rather than trying to achieve an effect. And coming from something is more grounded and more real. So you want the basic history of the character, and you want to be able to play to that history as truth. And I remembered thousands of little details that hadn't occurred to me in a long, long time. And that was a thrill. Oddly enough, Hulk was my favorite guy. And then when they, when they offered me the role, I going, this can't be happening. Nobody would think of me for this. And I was, Hulk was my guy. The loneliness and the wisdom and the sorrow and the understanding and the misshapenness and the wanting to be something else so much and having great strengths and great capacities and having them isolate you and the great gentle giant. Really what he is a gentle giant.
It was actually really nice to just sort of be introduced in the last film. One, for me as an actor, just kind of getting to know this world, it kind of eased me into it. But obviously, it was great to get the call that they wanted me to be involved in this. And, I'm just really happy to be exploring this character because, even for the first film, they give you a massive Bible and say, here's all of your character in one book and all the different comic books. And I remember just sitting and becoming more and more fascinated and kind of jazzed to play her. And so to go, delve a little bit more into that in this movie is just so fun. And and just kind of trying to stay true to who she is, but, bring my own version of her to the table too. It's just a really fun process. We really just see her loyalty and belief in Cap, and that's what it was in the comic books. So, I think she just fully trusts what he stands for and what he represents, and really wants to, facilitate his journey as much as possible. And that's kind of what it was in the books. She always had his back, and I like a character with a strong value system. I love Captain America for that, so it's great to play the sort of champion behind him. He's just so down to earth, and you know, has a great value system like the character, which I think is really great. And he's just kind of perfect for the part, really. I love the Russos. First of all, they balance each other very well, and I think on a big movie like this, having two people to kind of monitor everything that's going on is amazing and probably a lot more efficient. But they're just really cool guys, and they know what they're doing. They have fun doing it. They're just great directors. She's just a fun character to play, really, and you know, I really believe in who she is in the comic books and who she is to Cap, so it's fun for me to just bring it to life.
We went to a lengthy script process with Marcus McFeely and Nate Moore, and very similar to the work that we did on, all of us did together on Captain America Winter Soldier. We sat and carefully broke out the arcs of each character, figured out what we wanted the movie to be, and you know, spent close to a year in a room working on the script.
They're always sort of surprising us with new details, new places to go, new things to call back to, and it's just we love very layered storytelling. So working with guys like that, writers like that have such a deep, well-rounded knowledge of the characters in the world, it's very easy for us to get to very layered storytelling, very thick storytelling.
I think there's a real gravitas and maturity that Cap has. This is reflective of where Chris is in his life. We said it before, he's an incredibly technically gifted actor. He's amazing with physicality, with understanding where the cameras are. He's fantastic with stunts, which allows us to use him a lot in the movie to do his own fighting and do his own stunts. And I think that adds a level of realism that we crave. I just find that you know, he's successfully, in our minds, taken the character from someone who was taking orders in the first movie from a structure and institution, and who is now giving orders as a counter-revolutionary. It's a really interesting arc for somebody named Captain America. He's amazing. He brings an intensity that none of the other characters have. I mean, there's a real profound energy and edge to the Panther, and it's all him. And you know, he's amazing with conveying that emotion without a lot of words and through movement. And I think he's carved out a very distinctive character in the MCU. They're extremely relatable as human beings in the movie, and I think that that's what people are going to gravitate towards. And it's sort of a Sophie's Choice ending. It's very complicated and hard to decide who's right and who's wrong. It's surprising, and it's scary, and I think people will like that about the film, is that it moves to a place that I just don't think you can predict it when you sit down to watch the film where it's going to go.
The one thing we knew we wanted to do out of Captain America: The Winter Soldier was to tell the rest of the story of the search for Bucky Barnes. So if you remember, at the end of that film, the Winter Soldier is loose and his memory starts to come back. We knew that audiences wanted to get the rest of that story. What would happen if Captain America ever caught up to his best friend? At the same time, the Marvel Universe was heading in a direction where the events were getting bigger and bigger and the effects on the world were becoming more obvious. I think the strength was the personal story of friendship between Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes. So as much as Civil War is the trappings of the film, it's really about Steve making a decision for the first time that's personal over sort of a global version of doing the right thing. And once he does that, once you hook into this idea of Steve Rogers really doing something for himself, it becomes a story that I think, again, is more relatable. And it's that idea of how far will you go to rescue your best friend. It was the movie 42 where he played Jackie Robinson that we really saw both the intensity and the honesty of the character. And that's something, those are qualities that I think we wanted T'Challa to embrace. And Chadwick, once we started talking to him, you get very quickly that he has that as a part of his being. So the way that he attacked the role of T'Challa and the humanity that he brings to that character is incredibly important, because it's a character that we know we want to build a whole other franchise on. So we had to be comfortable and confident in the actor that we hired that he could carry a film on his own. Chadwick is a very, very smart actor, and he's somebody who's very dedicated. So he did a ton of his own research into figuring out how to bring T'Challa to life. Yeah, for Tony, I think you've gotten to know that character over 5 films now, so we wanted to do something different. We wanted to challenge him emotionally in a way that he hadn't in any of the Iron Man films and in the Avengers movies. And part of that is forcing him to face his own legacy. You know, this is a man who's built amazing things like the Iron Man armor, but who's also been responsible for things like Ultron. And I think that character, who is so complicated and who is so emotional, to have to face some of the things he's done in the past and answer for them is really compelling. You know, I think at the end of Avengers Age of Ultron, he had decided to be the head of the Avengers full time. He sort of had given up the idea that he would have a private life. But I think there was always an unresolved conflict that we had to answer, which was what would happen if he ever found Bucky Barnes. And this movie very quickly asked the question, where is Steve Rogers' allegiance? Is it to the Avengers, or is it to this guy that he lost 80 years before? And I think setting him on this journey of self-discovery, of figuring out who he is outside of the Captain America suit, is really important.
Captain America Civil War is a story that we couldn't have done years and years ago, because it really focuses on all of the heroes that you've met up to this point in the Marvel Universe. It's a Captain America film. It's the 3rd film in the Captain America trilogy, but it also is a film that has a very important place amongst all of the other films we've made, in particular the other Avengers films. And by this point, people know Steve Rogers very, very well. People know Tony Stark very, very well. And we felt it was time to see them, because we know their personalities so well. We know how they work together, and we know that they have some issues with each other. They're very, very different people. And how would they react if they were faced with an issue that they just disagreed about? And there's an amazing storyline from the comics called Civil War, which is one of the best miniseries that publishing has produced since I've been at Marvel for 15 years. And in it, there is an event that occurs that causes the governments of the world to say, we need to have oversight over these heroes now. And in our story, that oversight is basically because of the collateral damage caused during all of the action sequences of the other films. It's really interesting to see Tony Stark grow as a character over these films to a point where, you know, if you were to just say on a surface level, well, who would agree to take orders from an authority figure and who wouldn't? Well, you'd think Captain America, who was a soldier in his own right, would agree to it, and Tony Stark, who's gone in front of the U.S. Senate and said, I'm not playing along with you guys, would not want to do it. So it's very interesting to see them very naturally and realistically grow to the opposite viewpoints. You know, so much of the Civil War story is told from Captain America's point of view. We've brought in Tony Stark to showcase that other side of that argument, and it's really the two of them and the people that team up with them. But at the same time, we thought it would be fun to introduce a third side, to introduce a character that audiences have wanted us to introduce for many, many years, and who comes in and is really not agreeing with either side in particular and can represent sort of fresh eyes to see Tony's side of the argument, to see Cap's side of the argument, and frankly, to not necessarily care about either side of those arguments because he has his own agenda, and that's T'Challa, the Black Panther. And we've been seeding the notion of the Black Panther. The nation of Wakanda, where he comes from, has been seeded going back to Iron Man 2. So it really felt like this was time, and to bring in somebody who had his own agenda, independent of either the Captain America side or the Tony Stark side. And we've cast an actor named Chadwick Boseman, who's unbelievable and who is one of the best actors working today. What's fun about this movie is it's very much a Captain America film. Tony Stark is very much a character, main player in that film. And we get to see the two sides of their personalities, the two sides of their viewpoints on the world, on how the Avengers should operate. But at the same time, While it very much is a culmination of all of the other films before it, it's also a direct sequel to The Winter Soldier. We follow Bucky Barnes, we follow the continuing story of the Winter Soldier, who Captain America cares very much about, and who believes he can get his best friend back. He believes his best friend is in there somewhere. So we follow that journey. That's a very big part of this movie.